Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. I hope you would be safe and sound inside your homes. You must move to the coaching centers daily where you are enrolled. Whether you are enrolled in the private coaching centers or the government run centers, better is to facilitate yourself physically, routinely, or habitually so that you can learn the things physically from a teacher. This digital platform can't be the substitute for the actual mode of the teaching. All students need teacher in front of them to learn things well. Dear students, this digital platform, which was started government in 2019, can't be the substitute for the actual mode of the teaching. If it had been so, the Americans would have closed their institutions. Dear students, one more important thing is that you have to work hard. You have to make self study. This is the only mantra by which you can take your board to the bank. Dear students of class 12th and JK Aspirants, today we are dealing with a very important topic in the political science of class 12th, that is non-alignment policy. Dear students and aspirants, as the name indicates, it means not to join, non-alignment. For that, you have to go back. What is the non-alignment in actual? Dear students, in 1945, finally the Second World War came to an end. But when Americans dropped two atom bombs on Japan, one at Hiroshima, other at Nagasaki, and both the towns were leveled to the ground. It was said, that destruction of the human lives was in plenty, and property was also in plenty, and Japan surrendered from Second World War unconditionally. Dear students, the nuclear race in the world started after the culmination of World War II in 1945. So we can say the culmination of the Second World War in 1945 had some major consequences. One of the biggest consequences of Second World War was that the United Nations organization got formed, and second important was that the two hostile blocs emerged in the world, two military blocs, two different ideologies emerged in the world. One, former USSR, and the second, United States of America, and they had the military groups. Dear students, third important consequence of Second World War was that most colonized nations of the world started gaining freedom. India was first, followed by Sri Lanka. India gained independence in 1947, Sri Lanka in 1948, Indonesia in 1952. But the scenario in the world was quite different. These two blocs, United States of America and USSR, which were formed after the culmination of the Second World War, were attracting all the countries to join their military aims, and they were serving like a magnet. So the newly independent nations started thinking what to do in the present scenario. So finally they hit a plan, and there were some pioneer in it, there were some major people in it, major figures involved in it. And from India it was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and from Yugoslavia it was Marshal Tito, and from Egypt Colonel Nisar, and from Indonesia Sukarno. They hit a plan not to join the military aims of both the blocs, because by joining any of the military blocs will definitely fall their new independence in danger, and their independence, fresh independence, can have some dangers. And this was the apprehension not to join either of the two military blocks that came into the effect or that emerged after the culmination of the Second World War. So simply you have to keep in the mind non-alignment policy is the foreign policy of those countries who gained or which gained independence after the end of the Second World War but did not join either of the two blocs that were formed after the culmination of the Second World War in 1945, and they were purely the military blocs. So, but you have to keep in the mind that non-alignment policy was not a neutral policy. Neutral means nothing. They developed the ties with the rest of the world, and they also developed the ties with the Americans and the former USSR, but did not join their military aims. Because during this course of development, some military blocs were formed. The Americans formed a military bloc called NATO, and in opposed this, the USSR formed, that is the Warsaw Pact. So, not to join the military aims of both the blocs was the apprehension of that their fresh independence will fall in the danger. So, dear students, I am repeating the things for you. After the culmination of the Second World War, the nuclear race in the world started. But the culmination of the Second World War had some major consequences. One of the important consequences of Second World War was that the two hostile blocs emerged in the world, and they were purely the military blocs, and there was the ideological divide. So the USSR was promoting an ideology that is the socialism or the communism, and the Americans were also and are also promoting an ideology that is the capitalism. So the war between the capitalism and communism from 1945, or the tension between the two states from 1945 and 1990 to 1991 is termed as Cold War in history. The Cold World War did not result in the hot war, but the world was divided into the two blocks. Two blocks emerged. One was the USSR and another the United States, and they were purely the military blocks. And the countries or the nations that gained independence after the end of the Second World War had to develop the ties with the world to keep sustaining, and they did not join either of the two blocs because there were the apprehensions if we join these blocs, our fresh independence may fall in the danger. So men from the different nations and some pioneers, some important figures from the different nations like Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru from India, Marshal Tito from Yugoslavia, Colonel Nisal from Egypt, and Sukarno from this Indonesia, hit a plan not to join either of the two blocs, military blocs, because by joining this, our fresh independence will fall in the danger. So simply you have to keep in the mind that non-alignment policy is the foreign policy of those countries which gained independence after the end of the Second World War but did not join either of the two blocs that were the hostile blocs in the world. One bloc was headed by the USSR, another by the United States of America. Remember, you have to keep in the mind that ship was designed in the Bonding Conference of 1955. So dear students, this is the beginning of the non-alignment class. Hope you might have grasped the concept. In case of any query or confusion that may strike your mind after watching this video, you can call me on my number that's already lying in your position, or even WhatsApp. Dear students, but important thing is that you have to work hard. You have to see these things on your available political science reference books. You have to give time to the studies so that you can learn everything. Dear students, my prayers are with you. Be blessed.